You may not remember in light of Invictus Gaming's victory at the World Championship, but 2018 was the year of Royal Never Give Up. RNG had won back-to-back LPL finals, the mid-season invitational, and had 4 members on the Asian Games China roster that emerged victorious that year. What we refer to as the Grand Slam, or a clean sweep of every League of Legends title possible, was known in China as the Royal Road. And if not for lingering doubts over Korea's history of dominance, the World Championship was considered theirs to take. At Royal stopped 2-3 in the quarterfinals of the World Championships against G2 Esports. Now, this G2 isn't the G2 you know today. This G2 had Hjarnan and Wadded in the bot lane. Had to tiebreak to get first seed in play-ins, dropped a game to Latin American representative Fnatic-TES, and had to tiebreak with Flash Wolves to even escape their group to emerge to the quarterfinals. By all accounts, this G2 just shouldn't have won. But why am I bringing this up now? What could possibly force me to bring up one of the greatest upsets in world's history in the midst of what is now considered China's dominance, when they have won 2 back-to-back world championships and the only clear contender that people see is Damwon Gaming? Because, ladies and gentlemen, bear with me here, the perfect storm could happen again. China's favorite, Top Esports, is about to collide with European second seed Fnatic in quarterfinals. The circumstances eerily echo the end of RNG's Royal Road. In part due to the circumstances of COVID, Top's build-up to this year's Worlds is less impressive than RNG's in 2018. They made back-to-back LPL finals, but didn't win both. They arguably limped into playoffs in spring after a roster change that added former world champion Jackie Love to the lineup. In a 5-game series versus Jingdong Gaming, Top eventually lost, but Top still convincingly took the MSC title and the closest thing we got this year to a full-on mid-season invitational. Then they won LPL Summer against JD to secure the LPL first seed. After that peak is where the similarities truly begin. For those who haven't been paying attention, the 2020 World Championship has been dominated by a jungle carry style. While fully fleshing out why this is the ideal way to play the game right now is an interesting topic, it's separate. Suffice it to say that if you have 2 pushing lanes, your jungler should be able to get a minimum 2-level experience lead on the enemy jungler playing optimally. No other role can do that. Yet, despite this situation, we see TES bucking the trend. Frequently do we see TES picking for matchups and team fights, caring very little about lane priority and jungle control from draft. Karsa the jungler frequently paths away from priority lanes looking for a counter gank or skirmish if he thinks the enemy jungler will be there. This theoretically can open him up to frequent invades and falling behind, though I have yet to see that fully exploited. For example, FlyQuest an opportunity to exploit Karsa by taking his bottom camps, while Karsa showed for a top dive that didn't succeed, but only pulled away with Krugs and a dragon. TS's draft against DRX in group stage has been frequently criticized, but just watching how the game played out, TS had almost no tools to stop Kindred's accumulation of marks and only limped out of the group in first through superior team fighting and triple. TRX's composition should have also had the upper hand in fights, but they simply failed to execute well. The reason this harkens back to 2018's RNG is because that team, also bearing Karsa, also stubbornly bucked the meta. Most traditional AD carries have been nerfed in time for 2018 summer, with mages filtering into the bottom lane. In a game state dominated by strong solo laners and Camille-driven 1-3-1 comps, RNG focused the bottom side the entire summer, and in particular, continued to pick for team fights that would win out later. While players like Reckless were taking a break from the game because of the dominance of mages, UZI refused to put down carries like Xayah, Sivir, and Kai'Sa. Even with most traditional ADs trickling back in time for Worlds due to patch adjustments, the solo lane focus didn't abate, and RNG's poor read, while not really punished domestically, punished them internationally. RNG demonstrated signs of faltering as early as group stage. They dropped 2 games on the final day of groups, including to the North American representative Cloud9. Starting to sound familiar yet? Running double tank solo lanes and scaling bottom lanes. Cloud9 got many early skirmish advantages that forced RNG back off the map. But even so, RNG had many strong players on their roster. The team had accomplished so much in 2018 along the Royal Road. Their dominant performance at that MSI with Let Me absorbing pressure topside and UZI's incredible Kai'Sa performances nullified all objections. It's just really hard to overstate how fucking good UZI was in 2018, and it's hard to understate how little expectations anyone had for G2 Esports' bottom lane. Meta be damned, It just should have been over. In group stages at Worlds, G2 Esports only won one game with Hjarnan not playing his signature Heimerdinger against Vietnamese team Phong Vu Buffalo. Analysts in the Western scene had their number almost universally. This wasn't a team that was going to succeed if the opponent did proper scouting and had the perfect storm of bans against them.
Yeah. I think G2 is actually really one-dimensional in a lot of ways. Like they've only shown me one style, 1-3-1 with push, and they're very dependent on certain picks. I would say they're probably the most pick-dependent team in the entire tournament. I think they're super dependent on Camille, Heimer, and Kench. And any kind of, when they don't have those three champions, how they look compared to when they do have those three champions, it's just worlds apart.
In every game Royal Never Give Up lost to G2 Esports except one, G2 had Tom Kench and was able to use global pressure effectively to support the team's 1-3-1. Meanwhile, RNG stayed committed to scaling bottom lanes and double tank drafts. In the series, RNG locked themselves into horrible solo lane matchups like Poppy vs Ryze and Aatrox vs Galio. G2 pushed forward, took deep map control, setting solo laners significantly behind and removing the chance for an accelerated bot lane to get them back into the game. All of this pressure culminated in potentially UZI's worst career performance in Game 5 and one of Perkz' best on LeBlanc. More on that later. Now, back to the present. Enter Fnatic, a team we have barely discussed except to belabor Reckless's extended vacation in 2018 summer. Like the G2 Esports of 2018, 2020's Fnatic is far from Europe's darling. With a swap of caps from one team to the other, they have traded places in the European pecking order, and Fnatic only qualified on the back of a 0-3 loss to G2 in the summer final. But also like 2018's G2, Fnatic understand and play to the meta moment in 2020. Fnatic have looked best when star jungler Selfmade is given agency to dominate. He is tied for highest CSPM with other dominant junglers Canyon and SFM, and he has the second highest damage percentage behind Canyon. Fnatic effectively look for mid-jungle combos that give Selfmade prio to invade and carry with his lead while also accelerating bot side via jungle pressure. That said, they seem to have almost a finite set of combos that work for them, with Lucian and Evelynn becoming the predominant ban strategy, and Orianna combos falling behind. While champion pool criticisms of Fnatic aren't as prevalent as they were against G2 in 2018, they still very much exist.
Like, they're a team that just doesn't play in Italy, which I'm really surprised about, because it should just fit really well in their in how they want to play the game.
Beyond this, Fnatic also had a less than consistent group stage performance in a group containing no tournament favorites. They came out second after failing a key match for first against Gen G, having fallen to both LGD and Gen G once apiece. Another point of contention becomes the bottom lane, specifically the support role. While Hillsong isn't known for a deep champion pool or mechanics, he commands the map well, and Fnatic have leveraged a level 1 lead against a struggling support player in Life's Gen G in group stage already. Meanwhile, Yuyanja's laning has consistently proven to be a failing of TES, with an early level 1 flash blown making him vulnerable to Blitzcrank versus FlyQuest in one game, and just generally taking bad trades in another. Fnatic, in an old life, 2018 again, were known for their successful level 1s, and if TES decide to handshake a bot side invade the same way they did against FlyQuest, this is an easy way forward. So yeah, it's just really eerie. Top Esports' way forward is pretty clear. Draft lanes that can get an advantage, ban the likes of Eve and Lucian as well as some of Hillsong's best playmakers, and allow Knight to get lane prio. But their group stage performances suggested this absolutely won't happen. Knight has consistently picked for combo over lane matchup. TS seem unconcerned if the opposing team has more pushing lanes with which to invade. TS have looked for champions like Lulu that will more often confine themselves to lane and try to limit runs from the opposing support because Yuyanja just hasn't demonstrated an ability to match them. They have even opened Lucian against Unicorns of Love. Admittedly, something that is way less likely to happen against Fnatic. The similarities are so strong that 2018 Mirror is literally screaming in my ear, "You absolute monstrous moron, why are you making this mistake again?" But the more I put G2 versus RNG in my rearview mirror and think of the perfect run LPL legend UCI could have had, the more I understand the extreme perfect storm of disasters that had to happen. Of course, you saw clean Tom Kench in 1-3-1 plays, but as the series went on, the seams of RNG unraveled. Game 5 was an absolute devastation. The strong point of RNG's bottom lane, the bottom lane who, if you talk to other teams that scrimmed RNG in Asia, literally always set the meta for 2v2 matchups, made horrible mistakes like this. and this. And with a little bit of this. So yes, the narrative, the meta trend, the terrible drafts. RNG refusing to acknowledge their flaws certainly rings true, but a performance low from UZI and a performance high from Perks also colors the series, and it's hard to predict that lightning bolt to strike again. But the important thing to understand is that TES, like RNG before them, are vulnerable in the quarterfinals. This could be a moment where they stop. The circumstances align for history to repeat. The team that has struggled more but plays to the meta better can eliminate tournament favorites. There is a way forward for Fnatic. It can happen again.